This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be out in the barn trying to avoid the crazy windy tornadoes that might take the barn and the trees and the cows up on the ground with it. Today we're looking at a fun little family kids game called Tornado Ellie, brought to us by Hutch and Friends. 2 to 4 players, takes about 20 minutes to play. It's a little bit of a dexterity game with card play. Let me show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. In Tornado Ellie, you're going to be playing cards and moving this around and trying not to have any storm damage there. Each player is given 3 cows, 3 trees, 3 barns, and when those run out from somebody, that acts as the clock of the game, and everyone is given 4 cards. Now the start player will basically play a card here. This is the youngest player, and this has 1 sheep. And then they will take this and they will slide it to the next player. Now the next player has 1 or 2 choices. They can play a card that either has the same animal, or it could be a different species, but it has to be more than. So they could play any card with any sheeps, because this has a sheep on it, or they could play, let's say, 3 chickens, because there's more of them, and then they would spin this to the next player. Let's say it was a 3-player game, so this one kind of went over there, and so on and so forth. Now let's say someone else played, that next player played 4 sheep, because you know what, they could play they could play that because it's more than 3 chickens, even though it's a different species. And let's say it comes back to me, and let's say I don't have any card that I can play. Now people are not drawing cards up until this point. Now first of all, what happens, I have storm damage. I take the top card from the draw pile, and I have to place a barn on this. So I take my barn. Now, the rules don't say, but I've seen in other videos, if you place the barn this way, it's really hard. And you can do it, but it's really hard to balance a card on there because it's really tiny. I've also seen them say that you can put them like this, and because that was a barn, I would put that there. Some cards have multiple things. For example, here you might have to put, you know, a cow in a barn, and you'd basically stack them. Stack more than 1 thing there. At this point, everybody else draws back up, including that person, up to 4 cards, and then they discard these ones. These get discarded out of the game, and this player would start a new one. So maybe this player plays a pig and then pushes it over like this, and they're trying to make sure that this doesn't happen. Now let's say for some reason this player couldn't play, and let's say they had this was the top card here, which was barn and cow. So that player would have to put a barn, put a card, put a cow, put a card, and then they are throwing this out. Everyone's drawing cards. This player plays something. Maybe this player plays 5 cows, and he's trying to move it. What you're trying to do is, as the thing gets higher, you're trying to make sure that this thing doesn't fall. Because if at any time these cards kind of fall down, first of all, any other player that wasn't you that screwed that up, if they need anything, I only have 2 cows left and 2 barns, they can take 1 piece. So maybe I take a barn back, as long as I need it. And then essentially you would remove the stuff that fell off, and then the storm damage would happen again, so everybody would get up to 4 cards, and then essentially this player would have to put a barn, because this is the top card, and they would start the round by playing another card, and then pushing it, and things continue. Now this would continue until one person loses the last piece of either their cows, their trees, or their barns. Now that would end the game. The game would also end if the draw pile is empty. Now if the game ended because somebody had none of these left, that player is out of the game and cannot win. The rest of the people count up their things. It's 1 point apiece, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you have a full set, meaning you have all 3 of either the trees, the barns, or the cows, that's an additional 2 points. So in this case, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and because I have the whole set, it's 6 points. Whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. Now there's also an advanced variant. You take this thing off, and you'll notice in the variant here, we were just using this. And you can also use the outside, which makes it a lot less predictable and harder because this moves a lot more. Also, you can play the game at every time that it comes back around to somebody, you end up swapping the board a quarter turn so that it's different. You can do that with the basic game too, so it always feels a little different when you're passing it to the next player and you can't predict how it's going to move. Now, there's 3 special cards on the game. There's a cloud. If you play a card with a cloud, instead of turning the tornado the way you've been turning it, you reverse the direction that you're turning the tornado. The lightning. If you play the lightning card, instead of you moving it to the next person, that player has to move it themselves unless they also play another lightning card in that round. Right then. And then single. I think I played a single animal a couple times during the note, but I didn't notice the special rule here. I didn't mention it actually. And anytime you play it one, that player has to then play a card as normal. Then they have to flip up the top card off the deck, and if they can play it, it's good. And if not, they take storm damage just like I showed earlier. And those are the 3 special cards in the game. Now this game interested me just because it seemed unique. It has this cool little thing that draws you to the table, this big tornado thing that you're rolling around and things are falling down. And so I was interested in this game for kids, and it's not a bad game. The idea is cool. It's sort of gimmicky where you've got this tornado and it's going around. And that's really like the coolest part of the game is moving around. Now, it's a dexterity game in the end, right? You're playing cards, you're trying to play the same suit or something that has more of a different type of animal, and you're trying to move it without making it fall. So it's sort of get that dexterity aspect. Putting the things. Now, I will say that overall the game was fine. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, it was okay. I think kids will like this just because of the aspect of moving it down. You get in a tower to go high and you're moving it, it's falling and people are laughing. And it's a cute little theme. Now, they need to make this internationally language independent, so there's no text on the cards, which I understand why people do that. But at the same time, the special abilities of the cards aren't obvious. So the first couple times you play the games, and the first time you teach it to new people, it's not going to be obvious that they're looking at a cloud card, for example, because it kind of looks like a tornado card. They play the card and then it changes the direction, but it's not very obvious. It's kind of hard to remember. The lightning, same thing. They might be able to say, hey, this might do something special, but they might not really know. And it takes a little while for that little learning curve there. And same for the other special cards. So the special cards, I wish I got that they were trying to make them look nice, but at the same time, they're not that functional. You kind of have to have the rules there, and the learning curve is a little bit big for who this intended audience is. I do love that tornado. I like how you can put it inside or the outside for the advanced. Again, the rules had some ambiguities of how you place the parts, because you put the barn on there, and if you put it standing straight up, it's almost impossible to get the card on there, and it almost is going to crash all the time. I ended up watching a video from the publisher, and I watched him actually. He said you could do it either way. The rules didn't say that. If you're playing this game, don't play it the way it makes it almost not fun at all. You've got to play the things put it the easiest way so you can get some tall stacks, and that makes the game a little bit more fun. So overall, it's a decent dexterity game for kids. For adults and stuff, yeah, it's okay. I would probably bring something that's a little easier, like I reviewed a game earlier this year called Wonky, which is similar. You're stacking blocks, but they had text on the cards, a little easier to understand, a little bit easier for parties, where this is not as easy. This probably has the cool factor of looking at the tornado, watching it fall over. But in the end, it's just okay because it's a little fiddly with some of the rules, and again, those cards aren't that clear. But if the look of this looks cool and you can understand the rules from my video and it looks like something interesting, I think it's hard to get. I don't think they have any North American distribution. I think you got to import it over from Europe. But if a kid loves this theme and they like stacking this stuff, one to look into. Otherwise, there's other dexterity games that have more accessibility here that's probably going to cost you less money. That's probably as much fun, if not more. And that is Tornado Ellie.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.